KQ6IG, Kilo Quebec 6 India Golf. Name is Omar, Oscar Mike Alpha Romeo. And the QTH is just outside of Poughkeepsie, New York. And I'm running about 100 watts into a 130-foot doublet up about 65 feet. Getting a bit of an I've been up here just troubleshooting a little bit and getting a bit of an SWR. I can't get it below 2 to 1. I know I've gotten a flat match before, so that's what I'm up to this morning. It's just a little bit of troubleshooting. So back over to you, N3HFK, KQ6IG.
Yeah, very good, Omar. Well, I hope you can find the trouble in the antenna system there. The name here is Randy, Romeo Alpha November Delta Yankee. The call is N3HFK, and I'm located about 25 miles due west of Boston. And yeah, I'm just running a rice box here, but I've got a G5RV antenna that's not particularly high, maybe about 30 feet, and at the moment running about 250 watts carrier.
Okay, Randy. Well, you're putting in a good signal. You're about 10 over S9. Did I mention what I was running? The transmitter is a B&W 5100B, and the receiver is a National HRO7C, and the antenna tuner is a Johnson Viking kilowatt matchbox. So running all 50s, 40s, and 50s gear here.
Interestingly enough,
if I say 10 dB over S9, it's probably accurate. The other day I did some A-B comparisons between the old HRO, which came out, I think this came out about 1947, and my Kenwood 890 on several signals, and I tell you, the HRO S-meter was right on the button, so that's probably an accurate reading. Yeah, okay, on the G5RV and your QTH there, like I said, you're coming in really strong. Boy, 40 meters has been really hot lately. A couple nights ago, I talked to somebody in the UK on sideband, and I had never. And he said I was coming in 30 over S9, which I don't know. That seems a little generous. But he was coming in here. He was peaking at about 10 over S9. So yeah, the 40s have been performing quite well. Anyway, let me send it back over to you. I almost called you G5RV. N3HFK, KQ6IG.
Yeah, okay, very good, Omar. And you are about 10 over here as well. I mostly hang out on 40 and 80, and really enjoy AM, particularly on 40 meters. The rig here is an Icom 756 Pro 3, so not exactly the world's greatest AM rig, but gets me on the air. And then I've got an Ameritron AL 1500, which is where I'm getting the larger carrier from. Yeah, it seems to work pretty good. I do have an older tube rig here that I'm readying to get onto AM someday, but I've got a couple more projects in front of that one. But hopefully, when I do that, I'll get a little bit better audio on AM.
Okay, Randy. Well, it sounds all right. It sounds a bit restricted, but well, that's good. It sounds communications quality, I should say. So it's clean. I can hear everything you're saying. It's a little restricted, but then. As Art Collins said, reportedly said, you don't need high fidelity for communication. I am curious, though, what is the transmitter that you're going to be getting on AM? Go ahead.
Yeah, so I have a Drake TR4C transceiver with a separate remote VFO and a separate speaker power supply. And somebody gave this to me years ago. They heard I was a ham, and they came over to our house for a picnic or something like that, and brought this big box. I didn't even know what it was at the time. But I have meticulously restored the thing over the years. It's almost like showroom condition, I would say. And but it's not a particularly good AM transceiver. It has something called controlled carrier, which is when you're not talking, it lowers the carrier to be easier on the sweep tubes that it uses for finals. But there's a mod to change it to a continuous carrier, well-known modification to the radio. And since I'm going to be driving an amp with it, and not really pushing the sweep tubes too hard, I think that would be all right. The problem is the AM filters for these radios. Am I over-modulating here a little? Is unobtainium. Let me turn that down just a hair. And so I took apart, I unsoldered the CW filter that I had for the radio, unsoldered it, and there was like a crystal filter inside, and I built a new crystal filter that's about 7 kilohertz or so, and inserted it into the original enclosure, so it looks stock, but it's a custom filter that I made. And however, it's not particularly sharp, so I have to put some other audio gear in front of it and whatnot to make sure I can control my transmit bandwidth. I don't know if you can hear my cat yelling at me in the background there. But anyway, so that's the project. But hopefully someday I'll have that guy on the air and be putting out a halfway decent AM signal.
Okay, well that sounds like a fun project. Don't you love that when people just give you equipment for free? When I was, I try to think of some of the stuff I've gotten for free over the years. When I was in high school, just out of high school, I think. We had an FM radio station at my high school, and people would just give us radio stuff. One time, somebody gave us a Heathkit Apache transmitter with a matching Mohawk receiver. And the teacher said, "Well, we're not going to ever use this stuff. Do you want it?" I said, "Sure, I'll take it." And so I had a Mohawk Apache station. Somebody once, anyway, I got a whole list of stuff, but don't you love that? Okay, the TR4C. I've never owned one of those. I've had the C line, I've had the A line, and I presently have a TR7 I want to repair and sell, but I've never had the transceiver. But that sounds like an interesting project. I think there was a similar mod like that for the FT101. I had an FT101. Well, that was my first HF radio, the FT101, and I was really frustrated because they just don't, it's a similar problem. There's only one filter in it. There were two filters. There's a single sideband filter, and I think there's an optional crystal filter, if I remember right. And it was frustrating because so if you listen to AM, you have to listen to it through the 3KC or whatever it was filter, which is just awful in AM. But I think there was a similar mod where you can convert one of the slots to work on AM and put a wider filter in there, and it would work halfway decent on AM. I wonder what you're using as a microphone and what you plan on using with the Drake. Control carrier seems to have been pretty popular back then. That's similar to a thing they use in broadcasting called modulation dependent carrier, I think is what they called it, which was a way of making high power AM transmitters more efficient. So let me send it back to you there. Let's see. N3HFK, KQ6IG.
Yeah, okay, Omar. Excuse me, I got a little bit of a sore throat here. So the microphone is a D104, but it's been gutted, and it has modern electret elements in it and stuff like that. And I have that running into I don't know if you're familiar with the W2IHY outboard audio, but I have something called the EQ Plus, and then a little 8-band equalizer that things are running through before they get to the radio. But I'm actually, there's a ham in, I think, North Carolina that has designed this board called the Max Audio Processor Board. And it's like everything you need in an audio chain to have good AM audio. Got fabricated, like designed and then had fabricated custom front and rear panels to make like a 1U rack device for it, out of it. And I don't have it fully assembled and stuff yet. I still got to kind of, get the board mounted inside the chassis and, solder up a bunch of wires and stuff like that. But I've largely got the board assembled, and that'll be really nice. That's what I ultimately intend to put in front of the Drake, so I can make sure I can control my, my audio bandwidth and everything really well. And it should give me a pretty darn good signal. It was built by a ham, to have a good signal on AM, on amateur radio. So, really looking forward to getting that thing on the air.
Okay, yeah, that sounds like fun. Yeah, well, if you're going to buy something like that, it's always better to go to ham designers. I've got a few projects. Well, the watt meter here was made by Telepost. It's an LT100A. Okay, I lied. I am using some modern gear. The microphone and the watt meter is modern, but let's see. I got that. I have a VFO for a homebrew transmitter that I also got from a ham. And I remember the service is just always better when you get it from a ham. I remember with the frequency counter, or with the signal generator. Well, it's a VFO, is what it is. It's a DBS VFO. I bought it for homebrew AM transmitter I'm working on. And I assembled it. I put it all together, built it up, and it didn't work. So I emailed the other guy. It's a company of one, I think. And I said, well, this doesn't work. I put it together. Can I send it back to you? And he said, well, why don't you can do that, but why don't you try reheating this one solder joint first? And I thought, well, okay, I don't know what that's going to do, but okay, sure. So I reheated the solder joint, and it started working. Because he's not only customer support, he's the chief engineer and everything else. And so yeah, great service. I have a Wellbrook loop outside that I use for receiving. That is also they're designed and built by hands in Wales, and I accidentally torched the receipt, and it has an epoxy in it, so you can't actually access the component, so it's unrepairable. And I contacted the guy in the UK who makes these things and said, hey, what would it cost me to replace it? And he sent me a brand new replacement. He just put it in the mail to me, send it across the world for free. So yeah, I always try to deal with hand-owned companies. And okay, on the outboard here, well, that would be interesting to see what a goodness that makes. I like to keep things pretty simple. I have actually nothing. There is no audio chain with this transmitter. It's just a microphone. Well, I have a little impedance matching transformer, just a microphone, impedance matching transformer, and well, that's it. And you just plug in at the front of the BMW. I do have a couple of broadcast transmitters in storage in California, and I do have quite a bit of outboard gear for that stuff. But it's the stuff that would have went with it anyway. But yeah, with the vintage gear, I try to keep it as simple as possible, and I try to make it sound well, as keeping it as simple and stock as possible. I fattened up the coupling caps in this transmitter, and a couple of people told me it's a bit bass heavy, so I'm thinking about going in and swapping out the first coupling cap, maybe doubling the value, halving the value of the first coupling cap, and see if that doesn't fix it. Of course, the nice thing about having outboard gear is you can just sort of tailor it as you go. Whereas doing it this way, I'm actually going there and swap out components. But anyway, so that's how I've always done it. N3HFK, KQ6IG.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, you might be a little bassy. I don't find it objectionable, but you might be a little on the bassy side. I'm listening to you about 9K wide right now, and I've got a nice amplified speaker here, so it sounds pretty good to me. I'm not an audiophile by any means, but sounds pretty good to me. But yeah, maybe just a hair on the bass. So if you could change the value of those caps slightly, you might be able to find a little bit of improvement there. But hey, if you can get good audio without having the sophisticated audio chain, nothing wrong with keeping it simple. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think part of my reluctance to do that is I worked in the broadcast business for about 10 years in California and San Francisco and Los Angeles, so I kind of lived through the processing world, and boy, yeah, I've got a lot of stories about that. A lot of times, you can't please everybody. Engineers and program directors have different ideas of what the station should sound like. And usually they just want, well, anyway, I could go into all that, but I'm not interested. But yeah, I spent quite a lot of time on audio processing when I worked in the broadcast business, and kind of left a bad taste in my mouth. So I thought, well, if I can do without all that stuff and tweaking and all that sort of thing and make it sound good without it, I'll go that route. So yeah, so that's how we're running it here. Well, it sounds like, well, you say if it's not objectionable, I think I'll leave it alone. Let me try, I'm about an inch away. I don't know how much bass boost there is on this mic, but I'm going to back off just a little bit. Okay, now I'm about 4 inches away. And now I'm about 5 inches away. And now I'm about 6 inches away. So this is 6 inches. This is about 4 inches. And now I'm right up on it, so I wonder if that made any kind of difference. Go ahead.
Yeah, I can definitely notice as you are moving away. I'd say it's okay to about 4 inches out. Then after that, you start sounding like you're away from the microphone. But at least to my ear, you sound best when you're right up on it.
Okay, well that's what I've heard. So all right, well then I'll leave it alone. Then I won't swap out any components. This rig does have a neutralization problem. I can't tune it up the traditional way because I'll get all kinds of false dips and things, so I have to tune it up with the antenna tuner. I'm sorry, I have to tune it up with a watt meter, but the B&W manual doesn't have instructions on how to neutralize it, strangely enough. So I'm gonna have to get in there and find that cap and figure out how to do that. But okay, well I'll leave the audio alone then. Somebody else said that they thought it was okay, and I've listened on a couple of SDRs, and yeah, it seemed all right to me, but I'll just make sure I close talk it.
You guys hearing this thing?
I can.
Yeah, I'm just passing by. This is WA1HLR. I'm giving a station demonstration here.
Yeah, you're making it to the Boston area just fine there, Timmy.
S1 or S2. I can hear you, but it's sort of fading in and out.
Yeah. Well, it's probably conditions. Where are you located?
I'm just outside of Poughkeepsie, New York.
Poughkeepsie, New York. Well, I think fan conditions kind of suck. I'm going to try another antenna. Is this any better?
You're about an S3 now, so yeah, it did come up a bit.
Favors your direction. Probably doesn't do that well in the Boston area. Anyway, well, that's the story. I got my friend Tyler, who does my tree work, and a relation of his, or friend of his, is his brother. Was very interested in ham radio and plays around with audio gear and all that. So I got a call from Tyler, and he asked if he could bring his brother up here. He's very interested in ham radio, so I'm giving the old tour. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Well, welcome, Tyler. Do you have any modern gear there in the shack to show him, or is it all vintage?
Yeah, his name is Travis. Travis. What was that question?
Well, your favor, Tim, but it was good to talk to you again. And Randy, I heard some other people tuning up there, so I don't know, maybe some voice.
say hello, Omar, from the Annapolis area, KQ6IG, and the group from WA3VJB. The name is Paul.
Hey, Paul, you hear my radio?
I think we got the last letter off in the call. Kilo Quebec 6 India Golf.
Yeah, I sent you an air check when you were calling CQ, and I didn't have a chance to get out here and fire up. And then when Randy fired up and answered you, I said, well, I got a chance to say hello and welcome to the top end of 40 from the Poughkeepsie area. You're about 10 over 9 on an old ITT McKay commercial shipping receiver, and sounding good. I agree with Randy and the other impressions that have passed along. The low-end response is good. If you could emphasize the upper mid-range a little bit more, I think you'd have the kind of clarity it might take if signals were not as good as they are. And when you've got more time, I'd love to hear about your retired broadcast transmitters. I have one here myself. Very much enjoy bringing it up to 40 meters. It's a Collins 300G. Pair of 810s modulating a pair of 810s, quarter kilowatt. Randy, sorry to leave you out. I know you've been kind of chomping at the bit there with Timmy's antenna testing project. I missed your calls. I got that you're near Boston and that you're on an Icom. Been listening for a while. Randy, go ahead. WA3 Victor Juliet Bravo. Name is Paul.
Yeah, very good, Paul. I think we may have spoken before. I think you said you're in Annapolis. That kind of rings a bell. But yeah, I'm running a Icom 756 Pro 3 here, and maybe check my power, about 250 watts carrier or so. But anyway, I've enjoyed talking to everybody. I love 40 AM. This is really great. But I got to run. I'm being summoned to the lunch table. So I'll let you guys carry on. But good signals all around, although it does seem like the band is moving around a bit. Everybody's kind of, like Timmy was anywhere from an S9 to 10 over, depending on what sentence he was saying. So I think the band is moving around. Anyway, I'll hopefully be back in a little while here. N3HFK.
Hey, Paul, you hear my radio?
Okay, Randy and Paul. Yeah, I got to run myself, actually. I need to call him. But, yeah, I'd love to discuss the broadcast transmitters. I have an RCA BTA-1M that came from a little town in Oregon that I plan on putting on 160. That is 833s by 833. And then I've got a 20B2 that I plan on putting on 80. And that's 4400s by 4400s. But for the 300G, that is a lot of pounds per watt. It's a 250 watter, I think, if I remember. But, God, what a beautiful transmitter that is. So lots of chrome and glass. I'm quite familiar with them. I don't know if I'm familiar with all of them, really. Anyway, my transmitters are in storage in California. They're just too heavy to bring out here. I thought, well, if I decide to stay out on the West Coast for good, I'll bring them all out here. But I haven't quite decided that yet. So, I don't want to have to move them more than once. So they're still in storage. But interestingly enough, I've managed to acquire the entire test setup, general radio test setup for both of them. I've got the modulation monitors and the frequency monitors and the audio meter and the low distortion oscillator and the distortion and noise meter, all pure repeaters from that era, an RCA rack and so on and so forth. So it'll be fun to test all that stuff. Anyway, okay, I'm going to sign, but thanks everybody. Nice to meet everybody, and Randy, if he's still there, N3HFK with WA3VJR.
Okay, Omar. Yeah, the call letters are Whiskey Alpha 3, Victor Juliet Bravo. WA3, valuable junk box. That's quite a score for all the general radio gear. All I've got is the 1931A mod monitor. And you might know that that's got dual inputs that makes it good right up to 40 meters. So on your next trip to California, you might want to drag back the 1931A and change the taps on that input transformer to get it up here to 40 meters, just so you can watch those beautiful needles bouncing on you. They're backlit and everything. Just a beautiful display to watch. And yeah, I'm familiar with both the BTA-1M. I think that's the shutter door RCA. and the 20V2, which can also easily be brought up to 40 meters. Quite a number of them are on the air here. One of these days, if you decide to settle down in the Poughkeepsie area, sounds like a road trip is in the works. I've got a guy in California who's interested in a General Electric XT1, also a quad of 833As, that's being decommissioned from a station here in Annapolis, WNAV, which has lost its property. It was owned by entertainer Pat Sajak, who sold the land separately from the license. And the XT1 is losing its lease and has to be rescued. A number of people have told me I ought to go over there and at least get the mod iron and mod reactor if nobody else can get the transmitter. So I don't know if I need that kind of weight, what with the 300G's grip on gravity as it is, Omar. Anyway, I made a nice recording of your B&W. Check your email. It's a YouTube link. And I've now compiled a little bit more here now that you were in QSO with Randy and Timmy for a while. Look for you again. Hope you come back. And nice to make your acquaintance there, brief as it may be this time. KQ6 India Golf near Poughkeepsie, New York, with N3HFK near Boston having signed. WA3VJB Annapolis. See you later.
Okay, Paul, very good. I'll make one more just to get your call sign correct. Oh gosh, I didn't take any notes this time. Since I'm used to reading off my notes, I don't know remember what I wanted to comment on. But yeah, okay, well, I'm going to be definitely more active on 40 here now, and I know that how much activity there is and how good propagation has been. But okay, well, I will sign then, and thanks for the contact, and we'll catch up and finish the conversation later. WA3VJB. Yeah, WA3VJB. Paul near Annapolis, KQ6IG in New York.